Welcome to the MF Show, your pit stop for celebrity interviews. I'm Rich Waitas.
And I'm Jerry Zaiden. We're going to talk about hot car topics in the automotive industry and everywhere it takes us.
So today we brought in longtime friend and professional builder Jimmy Shine. He's one of our ambassadors here. You might have seen him at SEMA. You might have seen him on a bunch of our socials. But he's a builder that's been out doing his thing in this industry for a very long time. And I want to give him a chance to talk a little bit about what makes Jimmy tick and obviously some history about who Jimmy Shine is.
Well, I'm Jimmy Shine. My real last name is Falschlainer, hence why I've got different nicknames and such, and that's where the shine comes from. Been in this business a long time, building hot rods, race cars, worked for SoCal Speed Shop for about 20 years, got real lucky, got into magazines, and even did some TV shows, which really opened some doors and got some notoriety. Currently, I'm based in Orange County, California, where my wife and I live, and we've got our business there, Shine Speed Shop, where we do pretty much anything automotive. I mean, we're known for being, traditional car builders, hot rod builders and stuff, but we do restorations, some classic vintage race cars and such, all across the board. So that's what we're doing right now, and going to be doing that for a long time.
So hot rods and builds, Southern California, the evolution of style always comes up for me because style really defines, right? Like the whole project.
Well, like style is almost like a signature, especially in the hot rod world. You look at the different builders out there, Chip Foose, Troy Trepanier, Roy Brizio. Everybody's cars is almost like their own signature. Yeah. You can go to a car show and I can walk in there and I can see different vehicles or whatever. I can tell you exactly who built those. It's whose style it is. So yeah, it's kind of neat. Yeah, style is very important.
So what do you think of the evolution of style, right? Because we see how people build things and, there's a lot of rob Peter to pay Paul going on, right? So you get this guy builds something and everyone's checking it out going, that looks badass. And then people put their twist on it and then things evolve, right? So,
well, evolution is a natural process. I'm a very traditional guy. If you look at the cars that we build, the Shine Speed Shop, and of course, I work for SoCal Speed Shop under Pete Chapouris. Talk about a designer. I mean, that guy's eye was just phenomenal. I mean, he should have been an interior decorator. I mean, his colors and fabrics and smells. I mean, everything down to that. But yeah, the evolution. And speaking for myself, yeah, very traditional cars. That's always been my inspiration.
Kind of the maiden metal. You've always been the guy to want to kind of take that original and just use it to make it in what is a Shine project vehicle.
Yeah. But again, everybody has their own style. And I kind of, let's go back 25 years or more with Pete Chapouris, defining that style, always maintain that theme, don't get far off a base. And I always found that my own style was kind of that going to, if you look at my 34 Ford truck that I built a long time ago, I kind of got on this kick where I like to make something custom, but have people think, now, wait a minute, is that a factory piece? I like to kind of camouflage it so it looks like I'd put like fake forging lines and stuff where I'd grind it, so it's like, where'd that come from? Look at the wheels on that 34 Ford truck. I mean, it was a combination of 1932 Studebaker President 10-spoke wheels. I had a guy make up some 18-inch hoops for me, and then I used 35 Ford wire wheels. I cut the centers out of them, and then I actually welded them, but I put a rivet at each spoke and ran a Ford hubcap because the early Ford drivetrains and rear ends have the hub that sticks out so far. So it was a combination of 3 wheels to make one. Actually, Boyd Cuddington let me use one of his old wheel lathes.
Really?
Over at his shop. Go there at night, and he's like,
Up in Stanton?
no, right there on, was it Lambert?
Oh, okay. The early Boyds, yeah.
And no. Is it Lambert Road? Yeah, get off on Lambert.
So
it was the last Boyd Cuddington shop.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's
kind of, well, that's a roundabout answer.
Yeah. So like doing your like going back retro vintage, keeping it real, right? We were just talking a second ago about the boys being out in Japan right now, like a guy like Scotty Stopnick, right? Like they're on the the bikes, and they're all like these true choppers and they're living that old school style. But I see a lot of that in your work, right? Is that keeping it old school, but I see like a lot of modern high-end fabrication and
We're still, I mean, we're not CNC at our shop at all. I mean, I job that stuff out. We still hit stuff with, hammers and grinders and weld it and all that. Everything we do is all manually done. But yeah, that style you're talking about, the guys in the choppers over in Japan, that's a pretty hardcore bunch of people right there.
Well, talking to the evolutionist style, I think it's pretty interesting too, because you were kind of a one-man show and you kind of had some people in the background that kind of made stuff happen. But you look at your team like today, Apollo and Brandon, and it's kind of interesting to watch as you've kind of taken their perspective and kind of joined your vision with that. And you kind of got another generation of what is shine, speed, style.
That's the goal. And you know what? It's harder to do than you might think. And because anybody that's in this industry that has that ability to create, to be able to make it out of metal, bring it from a vision to something tangible, well, they're also very artistic. And so how do you don't really, you kind of guide, you just kind of trying to keep them between the lines over here as to what I want, because it's my business or whatever, but we do all work together as a team. And there's a lot learned, even like the younger guys, I learned from them as well. Not a whole lot, just enough.
So with that, there's different trends coming from the youth, right? Because they've looked up to you just like you looked up to them. What excites you most today that you see coming from the younger guys or the trends in the industry? Is there anything out there that's like, wow, that's badass and I just love it?
I think I like all of it. I don't know if I'm necessarily excited for, the development of anything right now. I'm just excited when I do see young kids, that never even saw, the 1990s. My God, they're that young, if you can believe that. Of course you can. You have a boy.
I do.
He never saw the 1990s, did he? No. But it's just seeing that. I think that's one thing I am excited about. And no matter what, if it's traditional cars, if it's tuner cars, whatever it might be, just to see these, upcoming kids, boys, girls, men, women, that are having that interest, that mechanical interest, that are in love with these cars, they love the sound, changing their exhaust, whatever that might be. Maybe it's something really small at first, like, oh, I'm going to lower my car. I like this suspension. I want to change the handling. I'm going to put these wheels on and put this exhaust on it. So I like that, Of course, there's many options out there. I mean, kids, this is a different world than what we grew up in. But to see, and for a long time, even when, I was a kid, these guys that are like my age right now, they're like, oh, this is lost. This is lost, It's like, I can't believe you're doing this, that you have these interests to build these cars. And it was perceived to be lost then. I think we all have that concern that these future generations are not going to be interested in this. But I think it's something inherently human that we mostly guys, but there are women that do this as well, but predominantly the guys that are out there, that it's just something in your DNA or your blood.
Well, speaking to that, one of the things that I always found interesting, you were building your first cars, 13, 14 years old. You kept a documentary diary, I almost call it, of like what you did. There's very few people out there that kind of knew where they were going before they got there. And in just getting to know you and seeing that binder you keep of like the project. I mean, how many people have the first car they built listed with what carburetor they set up with, what the specifications are you set up on that vehicle, what parts you put on there. And you almost kind of set it up to have this, playbook on how to build what you built. And it's almost, you can see your decision process in it. I mean, what kind of compelled you to like build this like diary of like how you built stuff?
I don't know, but I was compelled. I think I was so excited because I grew up, my dad was into, dirt bikes, motorcycles, hot rods, racing, drag racing, boats, all of that. And I grew up instead of having, like bedtime stories, my dad would talk about stories about going to the drag races and his friends and these different experiences. And I was always just enamored with that. My dad was also a boat captain. And being a boat captain, you kept a log.
Okay.
And it's like, for whatever reason, I think I was just so excited growing up as a kid to finally, you have no idea. I had this little military desk in my bedroom that I shared with my two brothers. And I had my drawer in there. That's where I kept all my cash from mowing lawns and doing odd jobs, whatever it was. And by the time I was 13, I think I had probably $1,400-$1,500 saved up. This is like 1983, 1984. And that was a lot of bread. And I think I was just so excited when I finally bought my first car, which I told my friends about it in school. And when I finally went and picked it up on the weekend and towed it back to my parents' house, they came over and everybody laughed. It's like they thought I had like a running, driving vehicle. And it was just this 1940 Willys, rusted body, rusted chassis, flat tires, no motor, no trans, no nothing. Here's just a pile of parts. And I was really excited about that. So to answer your question, I think that was because I could only work on it so late. Like after school, get home. How long could I work on it before I'd be pissing off the neighbors or my dad or my mom's like, all right, that's enough noise out in the garage. But my brain's still going. My brain's still working. And so I think that's how I appeased myself was by taking the pictures and then I just write down what I did that day just to kind of exercise that out of my mind, just kind of finalize it for the day.
So this kind of brings back the saying we have with the broom. We're going to bring the broom in the conversation. Where did you start in the shop? Like what got you going in the shop? Obviously your dad was into motorcycles and hot rods, right? And a lot of people that got into this, myself included, I didn't have that. I just kind of found it, right? Because of the kids down the street or the guy in the other neighborhood or whatever. It's just badass stuff. I was just, like you said, in your blood, the DNA. But how did you get your start? Was it a shop? Was it a buddy's house down the street? Was it your dad's garage?
It was my dad's garage. And then all his buddies, garages. In 1970s, it was all about, that's kind of when dune buggies became stand rails. Yeah. There was that transition there. Like it started getting like pretty technical and like, Scat Enterprise was making all these, Volkswagen components, and it started getting kind of fancy. They weren't dune buggies anymore, and that's what my dad was heavy into. And I'm 5-6 years old at the time, so of course you go to these different auto house. That was the place up there, like in Arcadia or something like that. But that was my favorite place to go. It had all the chrome stuff, engine components, speed stuff. And I love paddle tires. Paddle tires are just super cool looking. Am I right?
Yeah.
No matter what they say, those are just cool looking tires. So at that time, they were gas welding their sand rail frames together. I remember my dad out there and over at Don Sanderson's house and sitting out there and watching the guys. And it always smelled like, what was that? Carburetor cleaner. The white and blue paint. Not gunk. Can't think of the name of it right now. It's on the tip of my tongue. But all the guys' garages always smelled like they just spilled that carburetor cleaner, dipped something around there.
This stuff they like blasted their hands and got them.
No, it was an actual like a white and blue bucket that had a strainer. And you put your stuff in it and dip it. And I can't think of the name of it right now.
That's way before my time, I think.
Anyway. But just it's those funny things because every now and then you'll go someplace and you'll smell that. Yeah, it takes you right back to that moment. But I think that was something I really looked forward to as a kid.
So sand cars, like the evolution from the dune buggy to the sand car. So you're a Glamis rat, basically.
I was 2 weeks old the first time my parents, I have an older brother, Johnny, went to Pismo Beach.
Awesome.
Yeah. Corvair powered dune buggy, single roll bar. It was super cool.
Yeah, Glamis for me was one of the big influences in my life. It was just like a pinball machine out there. It's so much fun. You go everywhere.
Where'd you stay? Where'd you camp?
We camped in tents. We slept in the back of our trucks, but we'd go down to like the very end of Gecko Road. Yeah, like by Keyhole or, and this even before that was there. But just along that road at the very end, I think they call it Roadrunner now.
I think so. I haven't been there forever.
Yeah.
It's supposed to go.
It's
Now, we used to, like in high school, we'd camp out Gecko. Gecko was like our destination. You know, I didn't have a driver's license. All my buddies, I'd, you know, ride in the back of a truck with a motorcycle or an ATC or whatever it might be. Dude, we had, Keith Haney and I had a 185S.
Huh.
But I don't remember where we got it, but we cut up like a Suzuki 80, you know, motorcycle chassis, and we built a swing arm for this thing. So we actually had rear suspension on a 185S.
Jeez.
We borrowed a pair of paddle tires, or a set of paddle tires from the guys that worked at, it was Paul and Ken. The
Stat
off-road
Track
place.
or Sand Tires Unlimited.
Something like that. But they worked at this off-road rentals. It was off-road rentals up there on Chapman in like Orange. But we went to Glamis. What is it? Oldsmobile, China Wall. One of those big dunes. And we're about 14, 15. We had some older friends that had the, you know, Toyota trucks. So Keith and I had this 185S with paddle tires on it. We built our own swing arm for it. And we had to actually saw back and forth across the dune, 2 of us on it at the same time. And we made it to the top, and like everybody was just cheering. It was the funniest thing
But we
ever.
weren't helmets.
No,
No, see, that's how we did
absolutely
it back
not.
then.
This is 1985, man.
No helmets.
How many times you run over your own legs on your ATC?
Oh, jeez. Gosh. ATCs were so much fun. I mean, remember when they, there was all that like talk about, you know, they're dangerous and
Unstable.
they flip over and unstable. I'm like, well, yeah, but 2 wheels just falls right over. Like, what's the difference? You just got to lean a little. Anyways, yeah, those things were a blast. It was really fun growing up in that era because I got to go from the ATC and then onto the quad and the dirt bikes and all that stuff. It was fun. And then the sand cars back then being like, you know, J&J, like barely A-arms with the little air shocks and beam front end Volkswagen things. And then now you look at Glamis and it's like, holy crap.
Space age, man.
Yeah. It's,
$250,000 vehicles out in the hill.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
yeah. So, okay. So starting out young, very similar story to myself, like, you know, getting to experience gas and combustion, right? Just bringing us in the direction we go, which is awesome. The builds you're doing, what project or build do you feel best represents your legacy, and why is it so meaningful to you? Like who's your Jimmy Shine today because of this build? Like what build represents who you are?
Well, I would have to say it's got to be that 34 Ford truck. That's the one that put me on the map.
Yeah.
Had I known how, you know, popular or famous or how notable that truck was to become, I probably would have done a better job. I mean, it was cool. That one put me on the map, I think. Oh, I know. Absolutely. But
Well, I think it's interesting because that vehicle, while it's kind of on that verge of what you would call like a rat rod, it really isn't, though. You know, I know you despise that word, but in an era where that became a thing was, you know, people mixing and matching parts. I know you don't like the unfinished portion of it because that was never your deal. You always wanted to bring the metalwork to a state of being finished, presentable. But it was interesting to see where that launched you because a lot of people don't know all your history going back to like SoCal Speed and like the Bonneville element of what you do and how much of that influenced sort of that style because it was unique. It wasn't your typical rat rod build where it was kind of slamming parts together that didn't match. It had a theme and it was about going fast. And what did that mean to you being out there like in Bonneville and in that kind of build style and how that kind of...
Well, actually, I built that truck prior to any of my Bonneville or Dry Lake racing. That's me growing up as a kid and reading like old hot rod magazines because I like drag racing, but I always had this curiosity, this interest in the land speed racing. It just looks so cool. It's just fast. It's just cool stuff. And, you know, that 34 Ford truck, it was like, who would really race a truck at Bonneville in those years? Well, they did, but there wasn't that many of them just because of the aero, of course. But that was kind of my idea. I've always liked trucks. I like trucks. And I actually bought that thing for $500. I started out with a $500 hunk is what that was. But that was kind of an opportunity to like, because I never owned a flathead before that, except for my motorcycles and stuff. But like, you know, a flathead Ford V8. And I kind of wanted to do like a late 40s, post-war era, dry lakes, street driven, super low slung, but not stupid. And I really want to pay close attention to the proportions and get the body lines and the level of like the grill shell to the cowl, to the cab, to the belt lines, to the bed. I wanted everything to make sense because the early Fords, you know, they're cool, they're bitchin', but they don't really make a whole lot of sense. So without totally changing, you know, the design of Henry Ford, I just wanted to change it a little bit, just kind of give it, you know, my little touch. So that's kind of where that came from. And then it just kind of evolved into, you know, getting into Bonneville racing and such.
So did you set any records with this truck?
No.
You have a lot of fun.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, that truck, you know, I drove it everywhere. I mean, it went to Pleasanton, Dry Lakes a number of times. Matter of fact, we were talking about Japan, you know, the Moon Eyes show there in Yokohama. Went there.
Nice.
We got shipped there, and then Shige actually got us temporary registration to drive it in Yokohama. So we're driving around with Billy Gibbons
That's
in
cool.
Japan in my truck.
That's badass.
Magic. That was a lot of fun. Sometimes you just get lucky.
Yeah, it just kind of, that's how it happens, is fate just kind of brings it together and cool shit happens, right? What kind of speeds did that thing hit? Because I know everyone out there is here in Bonneville and fast.
Well, the Bonneville racing was in different vehicles, but I never raced it. I never got time on it. I mean, it would never pass SETA.
So you
It
just
looked cool.
went out and had fun.
Yeah, it'd probably do 90, 95 miles an hour, I think. I had 325 Richmond gears in it, 1-to-1 in the box. My rear tires were almost 33 inches tall.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, for what it is and was, it was plenty fast. I mean, yeah, a little flathead doesn't make a whole lot of power.
But you did make the 200-mile-an-hour club.
Not in that truck.
Oh, I know, not in that truck, but that was a lifelong goal there, I think.
It was a dream that seemed unattainable. You know, reading about Bonneville and El Mirage and, you know, Harper's Lake and all that, you know, as a kid, reading old magazines in black and white. And that just kind of evolved, and, you know, at SoCal, it just got heavier and deeper every day, just more involvement with the cars. Because like I was pretty much like building my choppers and my hot rod stuff and surfing every day. That was kind of it. I didn't really think I'd ever have make a living out of it, you know?
So you said surfing, so this kind of like leads into one of the questions I had, was like life beyond cars, right? So obviously Southern California shapes who we are as youth in many ways, from skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding, hot rods, whatever. But when you're not in the shop, like, what are your hobbies and interests?
As of late, I'm glad you brought that up. I used to I would surf 3, 4, 5 days a week. You know, get up early, go surf first, then go to the shop. And it seems in the last few years that I've been more focused on the shop and working in projects. And actually talking to your son, Zach, about that is like, because he's surfing, it's like, hey, let's go surf. It's like, ooh, that sounds like a great idea. I wonder if I can still do it. But not like I was very good in the first place. But yeah, I mean, life beyond the cars and the racing and all that. I mean, I've got a lot of extracurricular activities and things I like to do, and camping and fishing. And I used to like surfing. I still like surfing. I just haven't done it lately. But, you know, and you know, kind of to your question or your statement, it's really unique. I mean, I think, like, you know, all of us that were able to grow up in Southern California, the different influences from skateboarding, BMX, motocross, surfing, cars, motorcycles. It's we in Southern California, we've been blessed with this one. We got the beaches, the mountains, the deserts, the streams, the lakes, the ocean. We got everything. And that really, I think people that have grown up in the Southern California area, it's kind of a unique situation. We've had all those elements exposed to us, and we kind of, you know, how many guys you know that are bikers that are surfers? You know, that would seem odd, but not in California. Now they're in Southern California. I mean, everybody kind of is that cross-pollination of all these different, you know, cultures, and kind of a unique thing.
And what's really neat about it is all the manufacturers are here, right? So when you think of the skateboard brands or the BMX brands or the motocross brand, like, of course, motorcycles were made in Japan, right? A lot of them, but the manufacturers are here. So like, these guys are here. The tracks are here. The superstars are living here. Now it's changed, right? People are all over the place. But I feel like in Southern California, so much that we did as kids just shaped us completely. Car culture, the cars and coffee, the cruising Balboa. I don't know if you ever got to Newport back in the day. I don't know anyone who didn't. Going out to Anaheim, you know, the drag racing. You hear of all the off-road tracks, right? That were before our era, but we grew up kind of getting the tail end of it.
I like you said, cruising Balboa. Every Friday and Saturday night, I go to the Fun Zone. Go, what's that? There's the bar there we were too young to go to. But then back up to Newport Pier, go around there by Blackie's, make the loop just back and forth, back and forth. Why? Why not?
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, we would meet earlier, and there's that Carl's Jr. right on 32nd Street. It's now a Chipotle.
I know. I just drove by there and saw that. I haven't been down the peninsula for a while, but yeah, the Carl's Jr. We'd all hang out there.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Same parking lots there, which is kind of cool. It's just, you know, different restaurants now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like a really cool era for sure. And I mean, I don't think people understand how many thousands of people would show up in their cars and just congestion.
Do they still do it now?
Not really. No, they kind of outlawed it.
Well, yeah, they frowned on that back in like the 80s. I mean, you know, the cops, because I was pretty recognizable in a red 40 Willys Pro Street, you know, drag truck. But, yeah, God, that was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah. So the fun part of SoCal, and then, you know, there's the behind the scenes story, right? So what's like the craziest, most expensive challenge you faced during a build?
That's a really good question. But you know what? I can't think of any one single situation that's been more challenging than another. They all seem to have their complications, you know, from finishing a build to make it to Grand National Roadster Show or AMBR or finishing the race car the night before we leave for Bonneville. I mean, there's always just a number of challenges. And there's, you know, of course, you know, some of these projects, my own personal projects, you know, financing that yourself. Sometimes stuff gets real expensive real quick and you're not prepared for it, but you're all chips in. You're already at Bonneville. I've already grenaded this one over here. Call home, Nikki. Okay, if you see a charge on the credit card that seems like a lot, it's because it is a lot, but I need it. I have to have it. So, yeah. Yeah, physical challenges, mental challenges, financial challenges, mechanical challenges, environmental challenges. Yeah, there's, you know, but it's all worth it. I mean, if it was easy, everyone would do it. I mean, if there's no challenge to it, I mean, where's the victory? It's a hollow victory otherwise. If you're not working for it and fighting for it, it's not difficult, it's not worth doing.
Yeah, so it just comes back down to the passion. So it's hard. Most people would just run from it, right?
You know, and I think there are those people that they just get so overwhelmed by it. You know, at first they won't even attempt. Yeah. Then you take somebody such as myself who doesn't foresee anything. It's like, oh, that's going to be easy. And I guess get too deep into it. Like, then you got to finish it.
Yeah, my son's always asking, is it easy? I'm like, if you know how to do it, everything's easy. It just takes time, right? Because you know how to do it. It's just how much time you want to put into it, right? If you don't know how to do it, it could seem intimidating and hard, but that's where passion overcomes.
Yeah, but then, you know, some of like the biggest challenges, like to build something, to engineer a part, working on a car to go racing, and there's one aspect of it like, oh God, I'm just dreading doing it until I do it.
Yeah.
I was like, how am I going to solve this problem? I don't even want to attempt it. And then you get in the thick of it, and then there's that satisfaction of overcoming that, figuring it out. It's like, talk about, you go from like this, you know, the starting point here where you don't want to do it at all till you finish it. That was the coolest experience. That was hard, but I figured it out, and I feel smart today. And then I speak to Richard, and I go, oh, wait, I'm not that smart.
Well, how many times do you run into that wall where you're just like, it's like that unsurpassable wall. And sometimes you just got to like put it down and then have that other project. And I think that's the cool part about being sort of where we are here is, you're in a shop with multiple projects you're juggling. So you can take that mental acuity and then move it on to something else. And then when it's kind of in the background and in the side, you get that opportunity to kind of look at it from a different angle. And I think that's a unique experience you get. And whether it's racing, whether it's building cars, when you just have a lot going on, you have an opportunity to see something from a different perspective. And I think that's something that kind of inside of the industry that we have, you kind of need. If all you have is one task and you fail at it that one time, it feels like everything comes apart. But when you got 5 or 6 of those things going at a time, it just gives you that opportunity to kind of put that one aside and let's go conquer this one. And maybe that gives me some perspective back over here. And I think that's the interesting part of our industry. And once you get involved in the industry, is that you're juggling. And sometimes that juggling act gives you a unique perspective on those projects. And it gives you that opportunity to see something from a different way, talk to a different person, get some more information, and reapproach that and go, hey, I can do this because that guy did something similar and maybe I can make that work too.
Right. No, you're exactly right. Sometimes you just got to set stuff aside and look at it from a different perspective. And sometimes you get some enlightenment. And, it's okay not to know everything, but somebody to ask and get a different perspective on. And sometimes you got to know when to say when. Okay, I'm not getting anywhere with this project right now. I'm going to set that over here and think about it. And I'm going to call my friend John over here that does, really good carburation and talk to him about whatever it might be. Knowing when to say when and then not being afraid or ashamed to call somebody and say, hey, I'm stuck. I need some help. I need some insight. This is what I see. What do you see? So yeah, and those are some really fun moments. And and again, the guys at the shop that we all get to work together. I think that's a unique, maybe not terribly unique, but it's a nice process that we can all work together and like nobody gets super. Hey, ego's good. Ego keeps you sharp. You need ego, but to a degree.
Yeah. Well, you've had a lot of opportunities with, Billy Gibbons, musician, great friend, client of yours, different perspective on life. And then you take like a Pete Chapouris, who literally was a mentor for you. It's like, what is that kind of formula that you become having those kinds of influences, and who really had like the biggest impact on, let's say, your perspective on like how you approach these builds today?
Pete Chapouris. Absolutely. He's, let's just say in my early mid-20s, I was a bit rough. And he saw something in me and took the time to actually, how many times that guy should have fired me for the stunts I pulled, the things I did?
You were Jay.
So what are these things you did and pulled?
Well,
The ones you could talk
sure if I want to talk about that. I did some, dumb things and some just being a screwball, just being an outlaw, doing stuff I shouldn't do. Just doing things I shouldn't do. We'll leave it at that. But, it's things that, but again, I think Pete saw that raw element. That's kind of what made me who I was. Let's talk about the early 1990s. Having tattoos was pretty taboo.
Yeah.
It's so commonplace now. It's almost not even cool having tattoos. But he saw something in that. He's like, okay, you're kind of rough around the edges, but you do have some talent in there. He made me read a lot of stuff, made me read articles, and he wrote for like different magazines and like kind of taught me how to read and how to speak. He taught me how to speak to people like, an interview just like this right now, how to, and I'm not very good at it, but just good enough. But I learned a lot from him, not only, how to work with people and clients and other fellow employees, how to approach the projects. He was a huge, huge impact on me to take me from being the rough guy that I was, doing the outlaw stuff, to being almost presentable. Almost. I'm getting there. I'm getting real close.
But then there's Billy on the wild side and from completely outside the industry. And like, what did that do to kind of like open up your eyes to like seeing things in a different way?
It's funny that Billy, you gotta remember 1980s, the inception of like, MTV and all of that. And they had like Flock of Seagulls, ZZ Top, and I don't know, some other band. I would ride my bicycle home so fast to turn on MTV to see those videos. I just want to see ZZ Top. I want to see that red, 33 Ford Coupe. And just think that someday that, number one, that guy's going to be my friend and call me in the middle of the night and tell me weird stuff and like hand me the keys. I'm like, hey, why don't you go drive an Eliminator? Like, what?
Yeah.
I get to drive a Eliminator? And then
So how'd you meet him?
he was friends with Pete. Pete and Billy met in the 70s, and that's how the Eliminator Coupe was built, because Pete had the California Kid, and they do the Nationals back there in Bowling Green. And so like Pete and Jake and all the guys from the West Coast, they'd all caravan driving their hot rods all the way to Kentucky and go to the Nats. And Billy was there playing a concert, a ZZ Top concert, and he was staying in the same hotel. And he walked in and met Pete. He's like, whose car is that out there? And he's like, it's mine. And they started talking, and lo and behold, I don't know how long it was later, started getting things in the mail from Billy. Billy likes to mail things. I mean, this is going back 40 some odd years. He would mail stuff. So he'd started, speaking, corresponding, saying letters and trinkets and stuff like that to Pete. And then Pete and Jake built the chassis. And then it was Don Thielen, Buffy's. He built the body. Birdman, Bill Stewart, chopped the Eliminator Coupe. I think John Carambia and Tim Beard, they did the paint on it. But Billy, his influence or friendship, it's been unique because he's a unique guy. He's a lot of fun. I've been able to travel all over the world with him, and just we become friends, and his influence is like, just expect anything. You've seen the stuff that we've done.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say like Whiskey Runner is a pretty good example with all the weird stuff on there and like airplane lights coming out of the hood, because he had a dream about a Volkswagen Bug going through the desert and a light in the back, and there was a girl, and where does this even come from? I mean, that's the creativity side of Billy. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
We were in Australia and just driving down the road. He was sitting in the front seat. He was playing something on the stereo. Rod was driving. I'm sitting in the back. Billy's holding a conversation with me, whatever we were talking about. And I'm noticing that one hand has a certain rhythm, another hand has another certain rhythm. And like he's playing different instruments, and he's talking to me about cars or whatever it might be. It's like, there's a lot going on right there.
Yes.
I mean, I can walk, and chew gum, but like, it's like, how do you have all these different things? He's a really talented, very smart man, and a lot of fun. He's a super genuine guy, just super genuine.
Yeah, it is interesting how musicians tick. There's definitely a lot more going on.
There's a lot going on in there that I don't understand.
Calculator, right? It's math, right?
Yeah.
It's flying. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. How cool. What a cool story. So mentorship and influence then, like who's been the biggest influence on you, like most valuable lessons that you were taught could be personal life or just through your business, because all the screwball kid growing up in SoCal, getting in trouble, doing whatever, right? Now you're a business owner, family man.
I think I take influence from so many people for so many different reasons and different ways. Of course, my own father had a huge influence on me. Right things to do, wrong things to do. I always say like father figures, like in that aspect, it'd be my father, Pete, my father-in-law, Ernie. I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot about business. But again, I think I learn a lot, and I take a lot of influence from many people, older, younger, whatever it might be, every day.
Very cool.
So speaking of influence, we bring a lot of people into our lives through time, whether it's professional, personal, but there's these unique times where I remember specifically came into the shop and we were dealing with a drone problem. A lot of the people that have had these cars built, even previous customers of yours, you were talking about how it actually gets to the point where everybody thinks, hey, I want that loud exhaust system, and it's just cool for the moment. But over time, it becomes annoying. It's not what they wanted out of the car, and it actually starts to ruin the experience. And we had a unique moment where I got to introduce some of our new technology with our quarter wave resonators and kind of how we can mitigate drone, but not change that cool exhaust experience of having that, V8 sound or whatnot from the car. And I think it was a fun piece because I got to watch that light bulb go off in your brain. You're like, wait a minute. You mean I can still have it sound this way?
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. And just to go back, what you said is like, you think you want it loud. You think loud is cool. It's like, no, but there's a certain sound I want, but I don't want it loud. How can we get that sound, but make it not loud? And then, of course, in the hot rod world, we deal with all these different vehicles. And I had this problem, going back to SoCal with different vehicles. It was the 33 four-door chop sedan, and Adam Arikelian's little Model A pickup truck had a small block Chevy automatic. And it's just a configuration of the engine, the exhaust, the location, the cab. I mean, some of these vehicles, those two vehicles in particular, were undrivable,
Right.
because it hurt. I mean, it hurt your eyeballs. It hurt your teeth.
Yeah.
The drone was so bad. And we tried, multiple mufflers and moving them different places, and it just didn't seem to work. And that's when you and I were talking about that. And you said, well, and you started working on that NDT, the no drone technology. And that little Model A truck was the first one we did it on, and it blew my mind. I mean, we did it all out of the raw, stainless exhaust, but then changing the dimensions of that chamber.
With that little slip fit with the 3-inch increments.
It's like, oh my God, drove it around the block there. It's like, this is unreal. This is the greatest thing ever. So yeah, us as hot rodders, we're not that just stuck in that, we're always looking to improve. Remember the stuff we did years ago? I mean, horrible, super loud. Just maybe as a teenager, that was cool. Outgrew that real quick.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, right? Like what we do when we're young. I look at some of Zach's friends and some of the kids that, we're helping out. Yeah, everything's straight. I remember knocking a muffler off the race truck at the Vegas Torino race, and it was so loud. Like it hurt. It was beyond, and it was the passenger side, so I can only imagine my co-driver what he was dealing with. But at a certain RPM, I feel like every nut and bolt was just wanting to just undo itself.
They probably did. They probably did.
Yeah. So with technology and modernizing and whatnot, where do you see this industry headed? Because, we can be real modern. We could make things look old. We can hold on to the roots, but where do you see the future of this industry?
I think that's a big mystery. I mean, I think we'd all like to see it go in a certain direction. Don't have a crystal ball. I hate that metaphor, but 20, 30 years from now, I think there's always going to be the element of people like us here and there that are going to have that. That's just in our blood and our DNA. I don't think it's ever going to go away. Naturally, it's going to evolve. There are these EVs and stuff, but to me, they seem like soulless.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just me. It's my opinion. I think there's a certain charm and character to these cars and these vehicles, the ideas, the artistry, the creation. I think it's going to continue to evolve. I mean, you look at a real good example is in the last 25 years. These generations, we're all getting older. We're getting into different things. The 32 Ford Roadster was the iconic car, so desirable. And I love them still. But, for these generations, these guys in their 30s, 40s, 50s, I mean, it's becoming those 1960s and early 70s trucks. That's kind of like these generations, that's their 32 Ford. I see that's going to be a trend for a long time. They're plentiful, they're bitchin', they're fun. But man, I'd sure like to know 20 years from now. I'd like to know, but I don't.
Where do you see yourself? I see that because
hopefully on this side of the dirt.
This is a good one. But I see you did a Porsche.
Mm-hmm. That was a lot of fun. I mean, I had Volkswagen stuff, younger years or whatever. But that was a really fun project. I'd sure like to do more of those. I just love that little car, that little Porsche with the scat motor in it. It's a go-kart. It's just this beautiful little jelly bean.
So what scat engine is in that?
That's the individual cylinder heads. It was the race motor that Tom Lieb developed back in late 70s, 80s.
So the VW base.
It's
Porsche.
VW, Porsche. I mean, it's all scat. Tom developed, the case, the heads. I mean, it's all totally unique. And they stopped production on those like 35, 38 years ago.
Okay.
Because we want to do something special. The stock motor and the 53 Porsche, no big deal. I don't know. It's an outlaw Porsche.
Okay.
So I was just talking and went up and had lunch with Tom, and we were talking. And over at Powerhouse, over at John Randolph's place, he had a scat motor in there. I was like, oh, my friend Tom Lieb made those. It'd be so cool. He's like, yeah, they don't exist. I mean, they just don't exist. This is kind of a rarity here. So a few miles away over in Redondo Beach, I went over to visit Tom, and we're having lunch over at this really cool little taco place, and we were talking about it. And yeah, actually that's where we were. And I was talking to him about the motor, and he starts like looking around. He's like looking up like this. He's like, let's go back to the office. Go back to the office, go up there, and above his office, he's got stuff, and he knows where everything's at. Here's 2 of those motors sitting up there.
Oh, wow.
I mean, all parts, some of it still need to be machined or whatever, but how cool is that? Because Tom Lieb's a real good friend. The motor itself is all Tom Lieb. It's based on Porsche. So it really fits. It really kind of brings us all together because like
Hot rod
Tom is
Porsche.
friends. Yeah, it's a hot rod Porsche. Tom's friends with Ron. I'm friends with Ron, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So the car is actually a culmination of all of us. We all brought something to the table. So it's a 2387 Scat, and it's shot peen. Used all the Porsche fan shrouds,
Okay.
air cleaners, 48 IDAs, so it's the narrow bore. It's just, everything just looks so appropriate. And then that exhaust we built. So Brandon Johnson, my foreman, he came up with this design. It's all equal length. I think it goes 1 3/4, 2 inch, 2 1/4 with the Magnaflow crossover muffler, and then the dual tips coming out. It sounds great, and it looks cool too.
And what kind of power is this?
It's making about 180, 185 on a street tune.
That's a lot more than stock.
I think they were
30, 35?
No, I think they were more than that, like 60 or 65 horse, something
For
like that.
53?
I think so.
Interesting.
Oh, I could be wrong. No.
I was just,
You're
and I
yeah,
don't know.
53. Oh, yeah, because like the Volkswagens were like a 36 horse, right?
Yeah. So I was,
Yeah, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm totally making this up.
not either. I
Sounds good.
look at 356s and I'm like, I really want one, right? But I want like a 64, 65, a C with disc brakes, just driver. And then a couple of my Porsche buddies, they collect these cars and they have like the most phenomenal, like belongs in a museum car. I want to say something in like the 30, 40 horsepower range. Like it was really
you're right.
small.
Yeah.
Because then a 1600 was a big deal on those. Like that became a big thing. I think they were smaller, the 1200s or 14. I don't.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm like,
Look, this is like the first like Porsche I've ever been involved with. Yeah, look, and Volkswagen stuff back, when I was a kid, I was into like V8s and I didn't really rotate in that circle. Kind of made fun of them a little bit.
no, you had Vespa guys, Volkswagen guys, and you had
Oh yeah, it was
mini trucks.
segregated.
And, this is pre JDM stuff. So this was,
Oh,
you had a Mustang 5.0. It was like the brand new cool car. You had a truck. I mean, we all drove trucks. Toyota truck was okay. Honda Civics weren't really okay. But then in like the early 90s, they became
they became kind of cool. I tell you what, I think that's the next thing coming back. Just because I don't know, it excites me. I think it'd be fun. I would do it. Mini trucks.
Oh, yeah.
Mini trucks, I think, are coming back. I've seen a few of them. I just saw a lifted, like mid-80s Toyota single cab 4-wheel drive with the 15-inch rims and the 40-inch tires. I mean, albeit they're kind of terrible, but it's still kind of a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I'm looking for that 1989 to the first half of 95, 4-cylinder stick shift, manual, everything, 4x4 extra cab truck. Like I'm scouring daily.
We need to find one now before people get onto this.
I think they're already going with it.
Are they?
They kind of are, unfortunately, because they're like 15 to 25 grand now. They're more than they were when they were new.
New. No kidding. Wow.
Jason Campbell just bought one.
Really?
He bought, I had a 1990, a white extra cab. He just bought.
Like a Hilux?
No, a pre-high. It's the pickup. It's the 89 to 95. So 95 and a half is the Tacoma. So it's the 89 with that rounder body style. He just bought one with 280,000 miles, had a shell, drove who knows where to go find the thing, and probably paid $8 grand for it.
That's wild.
And that truck brand new was probably 10. But this one has 280,000 miles.
Yeah.
But no, they're really cool. They're just so simple.
I know. Yeah.
Just analog.
They're
It's got a clutch pedal. It's got a gas pedal. There's no traction control. There's no yaw control. If you slip the clutch too much, you're going to burn it out.
So 90s vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 30, 35 years old. I mean, that's,
yeah,
it's kind of like when we were in high school. Well, at least for myself, I'm 52 in January. So the 57 Chevys were the hot ticket. That generation, and the 32s were like the big dollar things. But those 57 Chevys were so hot, and they were, if you do the math, like 30 years old.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at 90s.
Yeah, I know. I'm watching guys build IROCs that I used to make fun of. The 80s
I think
cars.
you still do.
Yeah, I do.
It's okay.
Let's be honest.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but it's always interesting to watch kind of the flow of what is popular, because it's the people who have the disposable income, who've got the time to go back and maybe relive that original desire, you know?
Yeah, as funny as it seems, like, you know, we're talking about this is like listening to my dad talk about stuff that he did in the 50s and 60s, you know, when we're in the 80s or 90s. Well, that's us now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like yesterday, but it's not. But and again, it's like, I need a mini truck, like I need a hole in my head. I never had one back in the day with a crooked French license plate and my name painted on the rear window. But I mean, now it seems like comical fun. But
I like the 4x4 idea.
I like I wanted like a cowbug.
Oh,
I just want to do like a cool, I don't know, I think the Porsche thing kind of lit a fire.
yeah.
I'd like to do a Porsche, but I still have I did have a 1966 1300.
Oh, well.
The last year, like the cool headlights, 67, they changed. But yeah, like a cool turbo bug would be a lot of fun.
I actually see those from time to time. Donut Derelicts gets a little crowded, shows up. I think on Sunday, more of a Volkswagen car show, club.
There's a roll-in, yeah.
Oh, right there on Tustin Avenue, maybe a couple blocks from my house, and I forget the name of it. There's like a detail shop in there, and I went in there and they had a flyer, and it says and I just happened to be coming by. I was actually coming back from surfing one day, believe it or not. Gotcha. And I drove by there was a hardware store in there, and they had just nothing but like Volkswagens. They had, transporters, and there was a Volkswagen thing, like a drag thing.
They're getting a
Badass, like giant turbo on it, and there was just some really cool cars.
The things are pretty awesome. There's something about them.
They're called a thing. Come on.
Yeah, that thing's cool.
That thing is cool.
So I'm into it. I dig the 90s vehicles. We're seeing them at SEMA, obviously. So what a great show. We went from Bonneville, speed records, badassery, hot rods, to mini trucks.
And
They don't disagree. And we got a lot of surfing tied up. So let the audience know where they can find you.
Our Instagram is shine_speed shop, and then our website is shinespeedshop.com. And I'm going to be posting more. I don't post that much. I'm going to have Michael start doing it for me. I might employ another kid I know.
You should. You got a lot of interesting thing going on there.
Yeah, you know what? I just need to do that. There's a lot of things I need to do. I need to surf too.
Yeah, it's
Post.
when you're busy and you have work in the shop,
Yeah,
I don't really worry so much about the other side of it, but it is good. People want to see it. I think people appreciate your builds and they want to see what you're up to because you are keeping it real and it's keeps staying to that style. And that's very rare. It's not a big thing. That's why you're Jimmy Shine.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you, Jimmy, because
Thank you, Richard.
we got a chance to hear a little bit more about and kind of educate our audience on who you are, kind of what were your influences, and of course now we can keep up with you on your socials. And my name is Rich Waitas, and you can find me at IG at Oxidizer, OXIDIZR.
And I'm Jerry Zaiden, and all my socials are at Jerry Zaiden. And for more information on the show, follow us on YouTube at Magnaflow TV and all other socials at Magnaflow. This has been the MF Show.